Greetings from the world-class teaching program at Ole Miss. Thank you for joining us. We are getting ready to talk about the available resources. Prior to watching this video, you should have already watched the introduction and the welcome. The welcome kicks us off and explains a little bit about this training that you are participating in, and it also tells you where these resources that we're getting ready to talk about are and how to download them. So that is available in the Welcome and Getting Organized video. And then you also have the introduction video, which introduces you to the National Board process. So what we're going to talk about in this video are the resources and how you should use them with the National Board certification. And we're going to talk about resources that the National Board has available, as well as the world-class teaching program, because as you proceed and you watch the videos about the different components, you will hear me often refer to our Blackboard Candidate Support course, WCTP 601, and I will also refer to all of these documents above: the Guide to National Board Certification, Accomplished Teacher, Standards, your general portfolio instructions, the scoring guide, and components 1, 2, and 3, and 4 instructions. So again, we're going to talk about the available resources and how to use them in this training. And just to back up, and again, if you have not watched it already, you need to watch the introduction and the Getting Organized welcome prior to doing this, because those are the videos, the Getting Organized and the welcome, where we actually show you how to download it. But you can find all of your resources located on our website, wctp.olemiss.edu, in the Candidates Toolbox on the lower right-hand side of the screen. We want to begin with the Guide to National Board Certification. This document presents an overview of the certification process, the guidelines, including deadlines and cost. It's essential that you read this document step by step prior to registering for the national boards. Another important reason is that when you register with the national boards, part of that registration requires you to agree that you have read this document. And again, this document covers a lot of information, and I have seen it come back to haunt many candidates who did not take time to read it. So you definitely want to read this document. Let's take a look at what all is in this document. This is what it looks like, and again, this is an absolute must read. And I will tell you that this document is updated each spring with the specific submission deadlines. Okay, so it does have your deadlines in it, and when you look at it, it will just simply say, like if you're getting ready to do this certification process next year, it will have that the deadline for the components to be submitted, it will just have May. And they will go back and they will fill in that document later. Okay? And here is what is in this document. It's going to cover the introduction, the certification revision, the certification process, including the components, only briefly, how to register and select components. And I would tell you at the end of that document, you will see a visual graphic of the registration process, which is phenomenal. So you definitely want to look at that. It will walk you through what it looks like. It's going to discuss the dates and the deadlines for registration. The National Board cycle coincides with the school year. The registration opens typically in a spring and after the submission deadline. The deadline to register for national boards is always February the 28th, but teachers begin the process typically in the spring or the fall, and they do it throughout that school year. Sometimes teachers don't join till the spring and they only do one component. But a good way to keep the National Board cycle in your mind is just to think of your school year. And again, it's going to talk about your eligibility, additional prerequisite if you are a world language candidate, and I would tell you they only offer certification in the language of Spanish and French at this time. the fees. It will go over all of the fees, the initial fees, the retake fees. Then it will talk about refunds, withdrawals, and reinstatements. You want to make sure you read that. Scholarships and rewards. And then communications. Very significant that when you register with the National Board, that you register using your first name. Your first name, it has to match what's on your driver's license when you get ready to take the assessment. So register using your first name. I know there are a lot of people that go by their middle name. That will get you in trouble. Again, register giving your first name, the name that coincides with your driver's license. You also are asked to provide the National Board an email, and you need to understand that is the only way they will communicate with you is via email. Now, they are also on social media. They are very active on Twitter and Facebook, so you definitely will want to follow those as well, and we'll give you the names of all of those within the What's Next video when we wrap up this training. But when you give them that communication, you need to check it regularly. And also check your spam mail, because sometimes their communications do go to spam mail. So then you've got your assessment center testing, your scoring. Very important that you read about the policies. Candidates with disabilities, you can apply for waivers and, well, not waivers, but accommodations, and you very much want to be mindful of that. Confidentiality deadlines, denial or revoking the certificate, that can happen. The maintenance of certificate, which we just talked about the maintenance of certificate in the introduction, reconsideration of certificate, scoring decisions, verification service, language accommodations. So very important that you read these policies. And then again, you've got, this is what I was talking about, the National Board Candidate Management System. You will actually create an account with the National Board when you go to register. And this is really great. On pages 22 through 27, it will actually show you pictures of what the screen will look like when you register. And again, this document is very significant because you will agree that you have read this prior to completing your registration with the National Board. The World Class Teaching Program also assumes you have read this when you join us, okay? After you've done that, then we want to turn our focus to how do candidates certify? They certify by embodying the 5 core propositions and the standards. Your components exist only to allow you the ability to demonstrate and embody the 5 core propositions and standards. So, did you know, again, that the standards for each certificate area are the sole basis for the assessment specifications? You want to make sure that you are mindful of that, and that is on Scoring Guide. I think that left that off. It's on Scoring Guide page 1 to 3. Your rubrics align with the standards in each component, and your commentary questions are designed to prompt candidates to integrate and embody the standards. Let's talk a little bit about the 5 core propositions, because as you see, the 5 core propositions are actually part of the scoring. It clearly states the commitment, knowledge, skills, and dispositions demonstrated by National Board NBCTs. This is taken from the Scoring Guide, okay? So in addition to your standards, you also need to be very mindful of the 5 core propositions, which talks about accomplished teaching. When you see the term accomplished teacher, that is a synonym for an NBCT, National Board Certified Teacher. When you see the word evidence, that is a synonym for producing evidence that you have embodied the standards. The National Board has a website that I would like you to go to, and it is called accomplishedteacher.org. What teachers should know and be able to do. And this is actually the embodiment of the 5 core propositions. Let's see if it will open for me, and it will. So when you go here, and this is not long at all, you will select your chapter and you just process through this. This is something that you should do prior to, and you can see this is an introduction. It has a little video to watch that is not over 2 minutes long. And then after you've read that, you continue to Proposition 1. And the reason this is so significant, again, is because the National Board, when they certify teachers, again, they certify them against the standards and accomplished teaching. And the 5 core propositions, this website defines to you what the National Board considers accomplished teaching to be. So again, this is a great website. You definitely need to walk through this. You can do the whole thing in less than 30 minutes, okay? And again, the 5 core propositions are the big ideals in National Board certification. All of your standards are connected to, anchored to one of the 5 core propositions. It includes the accomplished teaching graphic. Assessors assess your work against the standards and the 5 core propositions. Okay, now the standards. You should have already downloaded your standards. So let's talk about the standards. The standards are the sole basis for certification. Each certificate area has its own standards. Accomplished teachers incorporate and embody the standards in their teaching, which is evidenced in their writing and the student work samples that they collect and submit. The standards includes examples of methods accomplished teachers do to meet each standard. You should use the standards as you plan. I like to say you front load on your planning with the standards, because the last hurdle between you and certification will be your writing in components 2, 3, and 4. And your writing must embody your standards. You do not want to get all the way through teaching your lessons and writing your written commentary and then finding yourself saying, okay, now I need to go back and integrate the standards. That's too late. That's not possible. You have to integrate your standards on the front end. When you begin planning for a component, you should have those standards that are identified that you're to meet in that component right beside you. That assures that you will embody and integrate your standards into the components, okay? Each certificate has 10 to 13 standards. The component addresses a set of specified standards. The components don't ask you to meet all the standards. National Board certified teachers, as we already talked about, they teach to their certificate standard and their state's standards. You are only scored by your certificate standards, okay? And again, the standards include detailed descriptions of what accomplished teaching looks like. The rubrics for all your components aligns with the standards that you are identified to meet in that component. And your written commentary questions align with those rubrics. Let's make the certification again that you must integrate and teach to the National Board standards, okay? Units and lessons you will teach will align with your state standards and your pacing guides, okay? National Board candidates do not teach to a test, but academic goal, or rather state objectives, okay? And we integrate the standards that are identified by the components as we are doing the teaching of the components that you are pursuing. Okay, that was your standards. Now your components. Your component instructions are very significant. Very important that you realize component 1 is the assessments. These instructions include a test schematic, as you'll see when you look at the component 1 video, of your selected response items, and they also provide 3 sample constructed response questions that align with the 3 questions that you will answer at the assessment center along with their rubrics. Components 2, 3, and 4, as you know, download in a folder. Check your computer's download folder to find that. The folders include the instructions and fillable forms. So you definitely want to be sure that you know where those forms are. However, your instructions also include a hard copy of those forms. That's for quick reference for you. And again, you want to make sure that you download your components, okay, and your standards. Each component includes a task, commentary questions, specific instructions, and explanations. The electronic submission at a glance is included in each component as well. Rubrics and hard copies of the forms are in your component instructions. And again, you will have to have your component instructions and your standards in order to view the component videos that you will go to here in a few minutes. The alignment. Very important that you realize your certificate standards, your component rubrics, and your commentary questions are all aligned together. The standards, which is the sole basis of certification, are embedded in your rubric. WCTP 601 even includes an activity where you can align your standards to your rubric to show you where they are. And then your commentary questions align to the rubric. So the better you understand this relationship, the clearer you can see this relationship, the better off you are when you begin National Board Certification. You do not want to just skip to what do I need to do. That does not ever result in certification. Again, you have to front load on this process. You have to familiarize yourself with the documents and the resources the National Board give you prior to completing a commentary. The General Portfolio Instructions is a really important document. It is only for components 2, 3, and 4, and it includes a lot of information. Let's look at what's included in the General Portfolio Instructions. This is what it has. It has preparing for the assessment, getting started, retaking a component. So should you end up ever retaking a component, you need to be mindful there are specific do's and don'ts as far as reusing what you've already done. And you will find that information here in the General Portfolio Instructions. Understanding the portfolio component general requirements, using and locating resources, policy and guidelines. Okay, now here's a big one. Learning portfolio related terms. You're going to see a similar language embedded throughout the components, such as the word unit. When I use the word unit with secondary people, they look at me and they shake their heads and they say, Tammy, we don't teach units. You're thinking about thematic units in elementary. That's only one definition of the word unit for the National Board. If you look in this document, you will see that the National Board defines a unit, which everyone is asked to do, as a thematic unit, a chapter in a book, or a lesson in a chapter. So it's very important that you read through those portfolio terms so that you can understand what it means when the National Board uses those words. Here's another very important section in this document, developing your materials. Often I hear, well, if only I had a sample of what the writing should look like. You do. You actually have 5 examples provided for you. Your first example is in the General Portfolio Instructions, and perhaps this is the most significant and most important writing exemplar that you have. If you will look at this, it talks a little bit about writing to describe, analyze, and reflect. We'll do a talk about that here too. But it goes into detail. It gives you samples, I think maybe 4 different samples, and they're all coded, like, maybe description, maybe in bold. I know analysis is underlined and maybe reflection is in italics. But you want to read through that and study it. I mean, analyze it. I want you to read through that, and I want you to look at how the author of that document uses knowledge of students. Very important that you really, really analyze that. Then you have recording videos for component 3. You've also got that information in your instructions, but there's extra information in here. Analyzing student work. In component 2, you are asked to analyze student work samples. In the General Portfolio Instructions, it walks you through several activities that you can do. And then the final part of this document is formatting your evidence for electronic submission, using forums to organize and describe your evidence, uploading and submitting. And let me make you feel better, the National Board has video tutorials of all of that as well, which we have conveniently located for you inside WCTP 601 in a module called Electronic Submission. But again, this is a really, really helpful resource. I remember the day it first came out and seriously almost fell out of my chair, the fact that they have released samples to you guys. And if you're wondering where the other writing resources are, they're in Atlas. We'll talk about Atlas in a moment too. Then the scoring guide. Often people do not pay any attention to this document until they get their scores back and they're not happy about it. Now, you know as a classroom teacher how you provide rubrics to your students. Consider this that important, okay? Make sure you take the time to read through the scoring document. And here's what's in the scoring document. As you can see, it's a pretty long document. It's 61 pages. It's going to begin talking about the 5 core propositions and the standards. Why is that important? Because, you know, as I was preparing for this, I was thinking, well, what does the National Board say exactly about how these components are scored? Well, that's right here. It tells you in the scoring guide, it tells you that your components and your performance at the assessment center are scored against your standards and the 5 core propositions. That's that Accomplished Teacher website that I showed you a few moments ago. A little bit about the assessors, who they are, the training, then how the assessment is scored. And this is very important too, because often I hear that the component 1 teachers are not required to integrate their standards. No, that's not true at all. If you will read, look at page 6, and you will see to begin with, the very first question it asks you when it's talking about the assessment center is, did you know your standards? Okay, so again, the standards are everywhere, and everything that you do for the National Board Certification process is based on your standards. Then you have your score requirements, accessing your score report, understanding your score report. There's a sample of a score report in this document, so make sure you look at that. Now, this is very important too, evaluating your performance. It's talking about using your rubrics, and then it starts talking about your feedback statement. The National Board provides feedback to everyone that scores below, I think it's a 3.25 maybe, on a component. And often I hear, oh, that's very general. They don't really tell you anything. It only doesn't tell you anything if you've not read what you're supposed to have read. If you know your standards like you're supposed to, if you're familiar with the Accomplished Teaching website and the 5 core propositions, then you understand what your feedback tells you. And again, if your component does not score that high, they're going to give you feedback. They're going to tell you why it did not score that high. So what you can do is look at the possible feedback statements that candidates get by certificate area, and it will point out the common mistakes that teachers make. So make sure you look at that. Preparing for your next assessment cycle, what happens to your scores. And again, here we've got some more information about retakes. There is a score calculator that is made available to you. There's a link inside this document. We also have a link for that in our scoring module that we make available in WCTP 601. It talks about filing an appeal and score verification as well. And it has an appendix as well. So again, make sure you're familiar with this document. This may not be one that you download and print. This may not be one that you print out. But if you don't print it out, it depends on what type of learner you are. Even as an educator, if you need a hard copy, make sure you download it and put it on your desktop and are familiar with it, okay? Lots of good information in the scoring guide. Okay, so that wraps it up for the resources that the National Board has available, except Atlas, and I will pull the Atlas for candidates up and show you that in just 1 second. Let me go ahead and show you the resources that we have, and then we'll backtrack and I'll show you Atlas for candidates. What do we provide? The World Class Teaching Program. And as we will talk about later on in this training, we are separate. I'm actually a faculty member in the School of Education at Ole Miss. I work for Ole Miss, not the National Board. We just have a relationship. we run one of the candidate support providers programs in the state. And what do we provide? We provide a certified MBCT mentor. There's a 90% chance that that mentor will be in your certificate area. We are unable to match a few candidates. We provide both face-to-face and online mentoring, and I will tell you that even our online mentoring is face-to-face. We host Zoom meetings. And probably one of our biggest factors is we provide access to a one-of-a-kind Blackboard candidate support course. Now, this course is not duplicated anywhere. Every resource that we have ever had, that I've ever gotten my hands on, is made available in WCTP 601. This is for Mississippi teachers only. Come in the fall of 2020, we will have the WCTP 602, a national course available. There are some differences, okay? And then also, and again, we can only provide mentors and direct training for Mississippi teachers. For national candidates, we have the self-paced 602 course. We also, for the Mississippi candidates, have access to our annual Super Saturday mini conference, which is also embedded in the 601 course. This is what the 601 course looks like. You can see that it has a start here, and then it has a module for each one of the components. And you will receive a mentor, but you should also use this course. It would be detrimental to you to not use this course. And keep in mind, it is a course. It is not meant to be something you can click through in 15 minutes, okay? You may not need everything in each module, but you should at least take the time to peruse through it, because I promise you, you will find some information that you need in there. Then we have the mini modules down below. You can see we have a component overview, and that is like our summer trainings. What you're getting ready to do now is hosted there. Standards and rubrics. This is very significant because this includes standards activities, getting to know your standards, a standard notebook outlining your standards. It has rubric activities, comparing your rubrics. Our timelines and assignments. The National Board does not have any timelines or assignments. We have both provided for you, and they are also embedded in the modules. The forms, a little bit about the forms. Sometimes the forms throw candidates, so we talk about knowledge of students, which is at the heart of every component. Goal setting. That's one of the issues that the National Board teachers struggle with. Sometimes the National Board candidates struggle with is setting worthwhile goals. Assessing students. Assessment is a huge part of this process. A video library, this is new. Writing for national boards, this is essential that you watch this. We actually have a video embedded in this that is done by two of our National Board certified mentors that happen to be writing project graduates. And we've got some really good resources in there for you, including, keywords and additional things that you can use. Here we go over the scoring again, and this is mentors. This has the feedback forms for the mentors. But the big hitting ones are the components. This is the 602 version. The only thing that is different is self-assessment. We teach you how to self-assess. So you can find additional resources if you go to our website, WCTP 601, not 601, WCTPolemiss.edu. Click on 601 or 602 to find more out about those courses. And then we have a graphic, an interactive graphic in the center of our page to help you as well. Now let me show you the Atlas for candidates. Okay, let me back up just a little bit. That did not give me the page I wanted. Okay, let's go here. Okay, this will take you, and we'll put a link to this for you guys too, to this page. And you can see there's a purchase. This is a very expensive program. You are not given full access. You are granted a small portion of Atlas, and I'll show you what Atlas looks like in just a moment so you can see how helpful it is. But you click on candidates. You do have to register with the National Board prior to doing this, because when you click on this, form is going to come up, and you see you have to fill this out including your National Board ID. So therefore you have to register with the National Board to complete qualifications to get that. So let me go back to our website one more time. I've showed you how to get to it. Now let me show you what Atlas looks like. Okay, I'm logging in as myself. Now you will not have access to all of this, but this will help you to understand what Atlas is. When you log in, always go to advanced search, but now you will not. You will be provided 4 cases. You see this? These are cases, okay? And you can see here that this is 8th grade science. Here, this is literacy, it's kindergarten, okay? You're going to get 4 different cases. Probably will not be your certificate area. That's not why you're giving access to Atlas. When you click on a case, what happens is you get to see the video. These videos certified at a 3.75 or higher, okay? So not only do you get to see a video, but just as importantly, you have access to the written commentary, okay? So what happens is, remember I told you you get 5 examples of written exemplars of what certification writing looks like? Take the time to watch the video and read the commentary. Read how analytical the teacher gets when they are talking about and answering these questions that we're giving to them. And you see they have the analysis, they keep their headings in their written commentary, just as we will suggest that you do as well. So again, you are given access to 4 videos that includes written commentaries, and then you can look at board certification, and it tells you a little bit about the National Board process, and it also includes the instructional materials that this teacher submitted. So you can click on that too and see your instructional materials, okay? So I'm not open instructional materials. I was on the wrong thing. So here it is showing you, this is the instructional materials. This was for the old entry 3. It's not the same as yours. These are videos from National Boards 2.0. It doesn't matter because you could not duplicate anything that you read anyway. That would result in disqualification. So it's actually a good thing that it is the old process because it makes it more meaningful. But you can see here, see they took pictures of screenshots that they used the computer with and submitted that as a resource. You don't have to draw a picture of your classroom anymore either. Be grateful for that. That was not fun. So again, that's what Atlas looks like. It's a great, great resource. And when you fill out that request that I showed you for candidates, you're given access to 4 videos that includes the written commentary for each video and the student work samples. And all of these videos certified at a 3.7 or higher. The highest score you can achieve is a 4.25. So that wraps up our discussion on available resources. Thank you.